Go now to a remote speaker, Don Adams, a former FBI agent who's been in the news this year, and Pete Johnson was kind enough to help, both letting me know about him and also to get him onto the remote feed for us out of Ohio. His talk is titled Oswald Did Not Shoot the President, the Surfacing of Joseph Adams Miltier, and 11 Shots Fired in Dallas. Donald Adams was born January 21, 1931 in Barberton, Ohio. He graduated from the Barberton High School in June of '48. He entered the United States Army in January of '49, Fort Knox, Kentucky. In May of '49, he was with occupation forces from June of '49 to June of 1950. In Japan, the Korean War. June 25, 1950 to '51. Honorably discharged in June of '52. He's got a bachelor's degree in education from Kent State University, and in June of '55, and a special agent of the FBI, September 1962. He retired in Akron, Ohio in December of 1982. He's presently self-employed as a president of the Adams Security Consultant, Inc., and he's a member of the former special agents of the FBI, FBI Agents Association, the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, the former special deputy, Summit County Sheriff's Department, and presently commissioned officer in Fair Lawn, Ohio Police Department, and the Akron Crime Clinic. What he's doing at our conference, you'll have to see.
All right, Don, you're on.
Okay. Do you want me to just give a little history of the work that I did?
You can put the phone down, I think. Your microphone's working.
I had the phone down. I can't hear you though. Can you hear me?
I guess I better call
Pete?
you back.
I can't
Shut, sorry.
Keep him on.
hear you with the without the phone. Can you hear me? Pete?
Sorry, folks. I gotta wait for him to hang up.
Hello?
Call me back.
Aye.
Hello?
Aye.
Don? Yes, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep the phone going even though you don't have to hold it to your ear, but in answer to your question, you have been introduced.
We can hear you.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Right, yeah, you can hold it, yeah, you can hold it to your ear, but your microphone is coming through, so I will keep the phone live too.
Yes, I heard the introduction and that, but the only thing I'm saying is when I put the phone down, I can't hear you.
Quite a delay.
Okay. Pete, should I go ahead and start and tell a little history about how I got involved in the
Yes,
Kennedy assassination?
yes.
All right. First of all, I appreciate being able to talk with all of you folks that are there, and I'll try to keep this brief if I can, and get the story to you as quickly as I can. On November the 13th.
Do you have a speakerphone on that? And just put it so that the thing in the top is next to the bottom of this.
In 1963, I received a telephone call from the special agent in charge of the Atlanta FBI office. He instructed me that he had a priority investigation that he needed me to get involved in immediately.
He's getting feedback. Did you turn this over? He's getting the feedback, I think. He's trying to listen to me.
And that I was doing the investigation for the Secret Service because they did not have an agent working down in the southern part of Georgia where I was assigned, and therefore they were assigning this case to me.
You just told him to go ahead and talk, he doesn't have to wait for you.
The individual that I was to do my investigation on was a man by the name of Joseph Adams Miltier. I was supposed to do a full background investigation on him. They
Yes, Don.
told me that there were 2 threats involved to kill the president.
Unless you need to talk to me.
Can you cut that tone so I don't hear that, Pete, because I can't hear what I'm saying? All right, I'm just going to go ahead and talk, and then I'll listen for some sign from you. And let me just say that I'll try to continue on where I was talking. The agent in charge told me that the Secret Service wanted me to conduct this investigation because they didn't have an agent down there. As I said, the Secret Service did not. The individual that I was to conduct a full investigation on was a man by the name of Joseph Adams Miltier. Miltier was involved in a discussion in the latter part of October 1963 in Indianapolis, Indiana, with 3 other people. And in the discussion that they had, where they were trying to form the Constitution Party, this private discussion that the 4 of them had away from the other people who were attending centered on 2 ways to kill the president. One was they've already done the work on this, and one was to kill him as he left Homestead Air Force Base in Florida en route to the Kennedy compound in Palm Beach. If that failed, they was going to kill him on the highway. If that failed, then they would wait, and then later on rent a room or an apartment across from Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C., and with a high-powered rifle mounted on a heavy-duty mounting, they were going to shoot the president when he came out onto the front portico of the White House or onto the grounds to talk or to walk. So those were the 2 plans, and there were 4 people, like I said, and one of the 4 was an informant for the Miami Police Department Intelligence Unit, as well as for the FBI. He immediately went back after the meeting in Indianapolis, as I said, in the last of October '63, and reported this information to his contact at the Miami Intelligence Police Department. Miami Intelligence Unit at the Police Department. So all I was to do a full background investigation on Miltier and get that information to the agent in charge in Atlanta, who in turn would turn it over to the agent in charge with the Secret Service, of the Secret Service. So I contacted Chief Bill Elliott, who lived in Quitman, Georgia, the same town where Miltier lived, and we did a 4 or 5 heavy day workout on him and went everywhere and studied everything that we could find about him. We went into the Lowndes County jail and found fingerprints for him, which I then submitted with my report to Washington, D.C., to the FBI, with instructions that once that they were through with them that they were to return them to the Valdosta Police Department, Valdosta Sheriff's Office. I finished my work. We did all of that. My partner had 14 or 15 years experience over me. I was a first office agent just going in there at age 32. I went into the service later because of age. And so as a result of it, I was suspicious about one thing. And that was, why were they assigning a case of this importance to a brand new agent that just came out of training school? So I filed that. And I do these things because I worked with my father, rode with him for 10 full years, sometimes 5 days a week and sometimes 7 days a week during the summer months, and then even during school year when I stayed with them, I went on all of his work. Everything that he did, murders, suicides, rapes, or whatever it may be, I went with my father and participated by being with him on all these investigations. When all my work was finished in that, I hand-carried, I prepared a report, I obtained information from Joseph Miltier. He had a habit of passing hate literature out on the corner in downtown Quitman every Saturday. Chief Elliott told me about that. I then went to him in old clothes and chalk all over and gloves out of my back pocket, and I obtained from him a large amount of material that he gave me. In fact, he was excited to give it to me, and that I had expressed an interest in obtaining it from him. I included that material plus all of the other material and the fingerprints, and hand carried it after my rough draft report to Atlanta, Georgia, gave it to the agent in charge, who in turn told me that he would give it to the agent in charge of the Secret Service. And as far as I was concerned, I was finished with Joseph Adams Miltier. I finished it, like I said, just a few days before the 22nd. And on the afternoon 22nd, about 1:30, I received a radio message over the radio in my government car to contact the agent in charge in Atlanta immediately. I contacted him and he told me, I had known this before that from a bus driver, but we had learned that the president had been shot. So then, once I learned that he was dead through another contact, I then was told to find Miltier immediately. So I left my partner Royal McGraw and told him where I was going, and told him that I was going to work until I found Miltier for the Secret Service, and was going to hold him for the Secret Service until they sent agents down to connect with him and to talk with him. A day went by and 2 days went by, and it went from Friday afternoon, because we did not find him, and we went until the 27th, which was Wednesday, at about 5:30. And about 5:30, I was riding in the car by myself. I told the chief to go on back and do his work, and that if I needed him, I would give him a call. At 5:30, I drove by C.C. Cofield's house, who was a prostitute that Miltier was very close with and lived with in Valdosta, Georgia. And when I went by her house, I saw his Volkswagen bus with his Strom Thurmond banners on the front of it, and I knew immediately that he was there. So I pulled away and backed off because I couldn't talk on the radio, because we had a common frequency or common band frequency, and everybody would hear our transmission. So I drove back towards town and found a payphone and called Ken Williams of the Valdosta Resident Agency of the FBI. I told Ken I needed backup, that we're having to take a man in by the name of Joseph Miltier, and I would appreciate him contacting and coming out and meeting me. He did that. When we got back to Cofield's house, the VW bus was gone. I told Ken we have nothing we can do other than talk with her. We talked to C.C. Cofield. She told us that he had the VW bus loaded and that he had just left her about 10 or 15 minutes before we came in, and that he was heading north on the Atlanta highway, and she didn't expect to see him for a number of days because he was traveling, as he did a great deal. Ken and I took off in the cars. He drove his and I mine, and we ended up and we stopped him 60 miles north of Valdosta, Georgia, and then called for the highway patrol to send a tow truck up to confiscate or to seize the vehicle, and then we took Miltier back to the Valdosta Resident Agency where Ken worked out of. I was in the Thomasville Resident Agency, and he was in Valdosta. So I went with Ken, and we took Miltier, or he was in my car, and Ken backed me up and in his car, and we took him back to Valdosta, and we conducted an interview of him. I was ordered by the agent in charge to only ask 5 questions, and I questioned my boss, and I said, "Boss," I said, "wait a minute. We have a perfect opportunity to get a lot of information on this guy and where he travels and who he meets with and so on, and we're passing a good opportunity up." And he was very firm, and he told me, "You're to ask these 5 questions and nothing more." So based on that, that's what I did. I conducted my interview with him. I asked the questions, he answered each question, and then I called the agent in charge and told him what happened and that all his responses were negative. And so he said, just let him go, and later on we'll contact the Secret Service, and then if they want him, they'll have to go ahead and instruct us to either get him again or they'll find him. And that was the last part of my contact with Miltier. And then I left Thomasville, Georgia, and where was I assigned to but the Dallas FBI office. And when I was assigned to the Dallas FBI office, which was now in May of 1964, I went over there, and after I was in the office for just a short while, the agent in charge called for me to come to see him, and I went in, and the agent in charge told me that he wanted me to do 2 things. He wanted me to go to the what they call a Kennedy room, and they had a large screen in there, and he wanted me to look at the Zapruder film, and then go to the Texas Book Depository and familiarize myself with the shooting loft and where Oswald allegedly had shot and killed the president. And he told me to do that on a priority basis because all the agents that were still there were covering leads on Kennedy, and if some on the Kennedy assassination, if some came in and they were assigned to me, he wanted me to have those 2 things completed before I conducted any investigation. I went, and my very first assignment was to sit in the Kennedy room and watch this large screen video of the Zapruder film. And while I watched that film, I made a comment, hell, he didn't get shot from the back, he got shot from the front. And an agent that was with me, there were 2 senior agents with me, and the agent said to me, please hold your comments to yourself. The Warren Commission is here, they're doing the investigation, and they've already determined that Oswald is the shooter, and I just think it would be best if you would forget about mentioning what you just said. So that bothered me. Why would I be cautioned about that? Because it was just an observation on my part. We went over with 2 new other agents to the Texas School Book Depository, and when we went up to the loft and I went under the lanyards and I looked out down onto the down onto Elm Street where the president was shot, there was a tree in foliage, full foliage in front of me. And I said to one of the other 2 agents, I said, was that tree bare at the time in November like they are back in Ohio, or pretty much so? And he said, no. He said, our seasons are different down here than they are in Ohio, and in November that tree was in the same condition as you're looking at it now. in another month they will start losing the leaves in that, and they'll be off and back on again by November. So with that, I made a comment and I said, on the way over here, you told me that Oswald allegedly had fired a bolt-action scoped rifle, and that he fired 3 shots in 7.5 seconds. And I told him, I said, there's no way in the world that could have ever been done. I said, and to hit the target as he did. And I already had filed in my mind what I had just seen a couple of days before, seeing the president take his hands and put them up to his throat and put his elbows up into the air. And I knew that he was shot in the throat just by the way he reacted. And so I didn't say anything about that, but I filed that, and then with the information that we got there at the loft, based on what I told him, I said, you know, that scope on that rifle is a very small scope. And I said, for someone to take it, the first round I'll give you because it's seated. But the second round, the bolt has to be pulled back, discharge the cartridge, push and jam the bolt forward because of the age of the weapon, and then seat the round, and then take the scope and pick up the target and shoot the target. And then repeat that again a third time. I said, there's no way in the world that anyone could do that in 7.5 seconds and have that kind of accuracy as allegedly took place. So I again was cautioned by one of the two there, and he said on the same thing, Warren Commission's here, keep your observations to yourself. They've already made a determination, and you're better off just leaving it at that situation and forgetting about it. That bothered me, but anyway, as a result of it, I subsequently transferred to Lubbock, Texas, and then I moved several other places, back to Dallas and then to Buffalo and then back to Akron, and then I finished my career in Akron with 10 years service there. And then I retired. But one other thing occurred. In 1975, I had heard a radio transmission in my bureau car which said that Nan Fenner, who I knew in Dallas and worked with her, Nan Fenner had made a statement. There was a letter from Lee Harvey Oswald that had been sent to Jim Holste at the FBI office, and that letter had been destroyed. So I immediately made a request in writing with the agent in charge, and was admonished for doing this by my senior resident agent in Akron, the supervisor, and then the agent in charge, that I should not do this. But I filed a Freedom of Information request with the FBI concerning any and all the destruction of documents by the agent in charge in Dallas, J. Gordon Shanklin, because I thought maybe there might be something there in addition to the destruction of that particular letter. And I do know that there were documents of mine, medical documents, that he destroyed, and I was looking for cooperation concerning the destruction of all documents by Shanklin. Several weeks went by, and I received a telephone call from Washington, and they subsequently sent the 27 pages of investigation concerning that letter to me. And I still have that, and I don't know of other people that have ever seen that document. I then forgot all about the Kennedy assassination, had no more involvement in it. In 1993, a young man who was the son of friends of ours, we were at their home for a Christmas get-together, and Larry came over and said, I understand that you worked on the Kennedy assassination. And I said, yes, that's true. And he said, well, I'm very interested. He said, I'm really a Kennedy assassination buff, and I would like to sit down and talk with you. So he and I went into the kitchen, sat down to the table. I told him the story of what I just told you folks, and as a result of it, he thanked me and then he left. 2 months later, I received a package from him, from Houston, and in that package was a book called High Treason. And it was written, co-authored by Groden and Livingston, and I know that Groden was at your seminar there. When I opened up the front flap, it had in there Larry, Joseph A., I know it said Don, Joseph A. is mentioned in the appendix, good reading, Larry. And I immediately went to the index, and then from the index to the appendix. And when I read the appendix, I was shocked, because in there it talked about a tape recorded message that they had on November the 9th of 1963, about 2 weeks to a little bit less than 2 weeks before the assassination occurred. And in that letter, Miltier said that they were going to kill the president from an office building with a high-powered rifle, and told Somerset, again the informant, that it was in the works. And the Miami Intelligence Police Unit had secreted
Hey, Don, can you
a
hear me?
recorder in Somerset's apartment and got all this stuff on tape. And everyone learned about the tape. I mean, the Atlanta office knew about it, the Miami office knew about it, the FBI in Washington knew about it. But here I am working on the principal subject in the case Joseph Miltier, and I never heard a word of it from my partner or from anyone else. And that really troubled me. And I added that to the other little things that I started putting together on this, and I started realizing that there's something wrong here. So anyway, once that happened, I then was contacted by the local newspaper, and they did an article which ended up and went public, and people learned that I was involved in this, and so I started giving talks. And that's the only intention that I had, and for about 9 or 10 years, that's all I did. I gave about 50 or 60 talks to all over the northern part of Ohio, states. However, I didn't have any intention of doing anything further. And then in 1997, I then started to write a book. A friend of mine said, "Don, why don't you write a book on this?" So in 1997, I started writing a book, and the more that I wrote, the more that I started putting things together, I realized that there's something seriously wrong as far as the way this investigation was conducted. I went to the National Archives, and I pulled all the documents on Miltier, and I was shocked at what happened. My documents, my report on Miltier, and all the stuff that I had submitted was gone. And my partner and the other agent, who was a supervisor by the name of Charles Harding up in Atlanta, they both took my information and put it into 2 reports and credited the information to their work. Hold on just a moment. Hello? Was you calling me? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I was being called. Took all my information, my documents and that, included it into their reports, and submitted them, one on the last week of December by Harding, and the other one January 22nd, 64 by McGraw. Those reports were very eye-opening. I found out that in the synopsis of the second report, there was a caution statement that Miltier was known to carry a weapon, a .38, and later on we also found out about a .45, and that he should be considered armed and dangerous. And my partner, who wrote his report, included that caution statement in that report. And so did Charles Harding, the supervisor in Atlanta. But neither one of them told me that he was armed and dangerous, and put my life in jeopardy as well as the life of Chief Elliott, because neither one of us knew, or I thought that neither one of us knew, that Miltier was armed and dangerous. And it did report in the reports and stuff that he was a very mean individual, and that made threats that if it was necessary, he could kill people in that. So as a result of it,
this was a serious violation of Bureau rules. And altering I found documents that I found my report of the interview of Miltier, and they altered that document. And there I have 2 documents with 2 different dates on them and signatures of an ad. Excuse me for just a second, please. I have pulmonary fibrosis, and as a result of it, I have a little bit of a sniffle problem. So anyway, I took all that information and started putting it together, and then I realized that there's some serious trouble here. And the first thing that I did was I didn't want to go off in different tangents and that. I didn't want to go off in different tangents, so I concentrated on 3 things. 1, to prove that Lee Harvey Oswald did not shoot the president. Number 2, that, I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought, but 1 was that he did not kill the president, and then the third one was that there were 11 shots fired in Dallas. Excuse me. Hello? Yes. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll go ahead and finish up. Okay, yeah. They've asked me to go ahead and finish up because of time factor. But anyway, where I'm going with this is that, oh, I know. And then also I wanted to surface Joseph Miltier and let the public know about what his involvement is and the seriousness of the things that he did prior to the time that the president was killed, which could have kept the president alive had it been handled properly. And the president was killed because of the deception and the altering and the things that they did. And I'm saying my partner and the agent in Atlanta and people in Washington. I mean, there's no question in my mind that the president would have lived if it would have been done properly. So I thank you for the opportunity to talk with you folks. There's a lot more in this, but that'll give you a thumbnail sketch of what happened. And as I said, there were 11 shots fired in Dallas, and I'm just going to say there were 5 that hit the president, and then 2 that hit Connally, and then I would tell you about the rest of them, but believe me, there are more than 11 shots fired, but 11 that we can account for with no problems. So thank you very much, and I appreciate this opportunity greatly. Okay, Pete?
Because we don't have time for many. Hang on, Don. We'll just take one question. I'm sorry.
What does he know? Tell him to talk about Gordon Shanklin's orders for Dallas field agents to stalk and harass Gene Hill, witness Gene Hill.
Do you know anything about Gordon Shanklin's orders to stalk and harass Gene Hill? Did not know anything. One more question. No, I'm sorry.
Just as he's seen the photo allegedly of Joseph Miltier
Okay.
in Houston.
Hang on.
In Lily Plaza.
Well, yeah, I think he has.
Okay.
That's he's asking, have you seen the photo of Miltier on in front of the book depository?
Our Kelly County Records Board.
It's actually on Houston Street.
I do not.
He's answering that question now.
Gene Hill.
No, he didn't know that. He doesn't know anything.
I did on Houston Street, and that is Miltier. Like I said, I spent time with him on the interview and also picking up that material from him, and that photograph was Joseph Adams Miltier, standing next to the tall man with the black suit and the black hat on. Pete, will you mention to them what that my website is, adamsjfk.com?
Wrap it up now, and I'm going to plug your website for you.
You did do that?
There might be some other questions that come to you later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you just. Okay, I'm going to hang up now. Thanks, Don. I hope you heard the
Yes.
applause. Thank you very much. Bye, Don.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, I know you had another question. I've got Don's phone number. I've got his email. I'm sure Don will be very.
He has a website?
And he has a website which is adamsjfk.com, I believe. And my name's Pete Johnson. Anybody that wants to get a hold of him can, I'll be around all weekend. I can give you my contact information and such.
Thanks.